Now call this meeting to order. Welcome to the City of Lebanon Board of Zoning Appeals meeting, Monday, November 4th, 2024, 7 p.m. We'll start with a roll call. Kelly?
Corey Coontz.
Here.
Chad Kiger.
Here.
Bruce Polly. Absent. Ron Edwards.
Here.
Lori Gross. Here.
Okay, approval of our minutes from the October meeting. Any discussion about that, or if not, I'll take a motion.
Move to approve the minutes.
People out over there. We said they weren't going to throw anybody out of that trailer park in those minutes last night.
Hang on just a second, okay? We'll open the public hearing for old business in just a second, okay? So I heard a motion, I think, from Corey to approve the minutes from last.
Second from me.
Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes. Okay, old business. Any old business from the board members? Okay, now we'll open the public. Okay, go ahead, Ben.
Would you want to announce the first docket number, and then I'll go into my staff report?
Okay. We go right into new business?
Yeah.
Okay. We have two items on the agenda tonight, docket 2449 and docket 2452. I want to start with 2459, which is, 2449. Mark Wisely and Tammy Paluchel requesting use variance approval to permit an RV park use in the Elm Street Mobile Home Park. The property is located at 441 West Elm Street, and the property is zoned R6 residential. Ben?
Mr. Kiker, members of the board, I will walk you through some of the elements of the staff report related to this item, give you a little bit of background, and then the applicant is here to provide a little background as well to their request. So if they pull the screen up, we'll just start with just a brief overview. This is the current Elm Street Mobile Home Park. You see your outline in yellow, just a little southwest of the downtown area. And the owners of the park had approached me and said that they were interested in, with the vacant lots that they currently have, marketing those lots to RV owners and users, primarily RV owners that would be contractors working on large-scale projects like the Eli Lilly project, where they would be here for a period of time. Obviously, those lots are set up with utilities, and so there's connections for RVs, et cetera. But in terms of the actual use itself, RV parks, at least in terms of that definition, is a different use than a mobile home park in our use table, in our ordinance. And RV parks are not a permitted use within the R6 zoning district. So what I suggested to them is, because this is not a permanent use change that they're suggesting here, this is more accommodating users that will be here for a while. It's a lengthy period of time. It is a temporary period of time while these construction projects are taking place. It would make more sense for them, rather than trying to do a zoning change to allow RV park, to do a use variance. And then what I recommend to them is that I would be more comfortable if there was basically an end date on the use variance approval, which you'll see in my recommendation later when we get to that. So that is the intention, and I'll let them walk through in a little bit more detail. Their license that they have with the state actually allows them and permits them to do both mobile homes and RVs. So they already have a license for this type of use. It's really just the local use and making sure that that's permitted, and then that would be the RV park use. So that's the request is before here tonight, is a use variance request to allow the RV park use. And essentially this would be, and I think they have a map to show you where they're looking to market, but it would be for some of the vacant lots that they have within their RV or within their mobile home park that they would market to these RV users. So like every use variance, there are 5 criteria that need to be considered when looking to consider approval of any use variance, and they are as follows. The first one is that the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. Staff analysis suggests that the variance of use to permit an RV park on the subject property will not be injurious to the public health. The use will be required to meet all applicable standards associated with the owner's license through the Indiana State Board of Health for mobile home and RV occupancy. Criteria number 2 is the use and value of the area adjacent will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. The requested use variance will not affect the use and value of the area adjacent to the property. The proposed addition of RVs to the existing mobile home park will have similar characteristics and will have no different impact to the surrounding area than what already exists. Criteria number 3, that would be that the need for the variance arises from some condition peculiar to the property. The subject property is currently used for a mobile home park, which has similar characteristics to what might be expected from an RV park. Given the similarities, it's not expected the use of the site would be notably altered. Number 4, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will constitute unnecessary hardship if applied to the property. What I should point out here is that actually the mobile home park is a legal existing non-conforming use because the R6 zoning district does not permit mobile home parks by right. So we're already dealing with the non-conforming use, but it is a legally existing non-conforming use. So in this case, we're considering a use that's similar to the use that's already there. And their license permits both of those uses to take place, but the UDO considers those as 2 separate uses. So because the 2 uses have similar characteristics and the site is set up to accommodate both uses, it does represent a hardship on the property. Criteria number 5, the approval does not interfere substantially with the City of Lebanon comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan designates this property for mixed density residential uses. However, the immediate area near the subject property contains both residential and non-residential uses. Thus, the applicant's proposal does not interfere substantially with the land use destination. And as I mentioned, we'd be considering this and are recommending this for a temporary time period that I'll go through in the recommendation here. So staff recommendation, we do recommend approval of the variance of use request to permit a campground RV park use within the R6 residential zoning district, subject to the following conditions. And number 1 would be that the approval of the variance of use is limited to those campground and RV park uses proposed by the applicant. Any change in the use or increase in the intensity of the use by the current or any subsequent owners will require approval by the Board of Zoning Appeals. And the second, and here's the time period, is that the approval for the proposed RV park use expires 3 years from the date of board approval. And if there is a desire to continue the use beyond the expiration date, additional consideration by the Board of Zoning Appeals would be required. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, and the applicant is here to provide some additional detail on what they're proposing to do.
Questions?
I do have a couple, Ben. All these will have semi-permanent hookups for utilities and.
So I'll let the applicant walk through it in further detail. There are utilities at every one of those lots because there has been historically a mobile home there. So all of the required utilities, electric, water, and sanitary are there on the sites, and I'll let them walk through the modifications they need to do in order to accommodate those RVs when they come in.
And does our UDO have different criteria for RVs than it does for a mobile home in the UDO? Or is
Not
it the same?
necessarily from a use and zoning perspective. It more from a building code perspective. They're obviously considered different, even though technically they both have wheels. So there is a little bit of difference from a code perspective, but from a zoning perspective, there's not much difference. Now, this use, while we're categorizing it as an RV park, it's not typically what you would anticipate from an RV park where people are coming and going every weekend or during the week. This use that they're proposing, I think is more like the mobile homes are already there, because these are people that are going to be coming and going probably for 6 months or longer, because they're going to be there working construction at the Eli Lilly site for the next couple of years.
And those workers typically go from job to job wherever those jobs take them?
Yes, yeah.
They
They're
prefer
coming
RVs?
in. Yeah, they're coming in because they've been hired for the next year to do X, Y, Z. They're finding a place within close proximity where they can set up shop for the next year, and then they move on to the next job somewhere else.
Probably cheaper than rent. Yeah.
Yeah, in some cases it is.
More questions for Ben? Okay, would the applicant like to come up, please?
My name is Mark Wisely. Thank you for the Board of Zoning Appeals to hear this evening. Ben's covered everything fairly thoroughly. I'll tell you a little bit about myself and my partner, Tammy Pluchel. We bought this property in 2012 from the Hendricksons. Some of you may or may not know them. And we've been working very hard to get the property cleaned up here the last 12 years. We have been removing, as they become vacant, some of the older units that we've determined are not inhabitable in order to provide better housing, clean housing for folks in the community. And we have received a lot of inquiries just in the last 2 or 3 months from plumbers, pipe fitters, welders, folks that are working on this Eli Lilly project that are looking for a place to bring their $30,000-$40,000 fifth wheel camper. And they're telling us that they're anticipating that this job could last anywhere from 3 to 5 years. It's not going to be we're not interested in a 60-day or 180-day turnover on anything like that. This is going to be a what I would call a temporary permanent fixture. Our interest in the property is just to provide some accommodation for these folks that are coming in while this project is going on. And then we will continue to bring brand new mobile homes back into the community, continue to upgrade it. But we thought this could be a nice interim fit for the folks that are looking for housing, working on this project. And our asset is going to be much more valuable as a mobile home community. We're not interested in a long-term RV park. So just to kind of give some assurances to the board is what we're looking for there. So as I said, we've had numerous inquiries and these folks just don't have anywhere to go close to this job site. And so it made sense to come here and approach the board about this and see if this was something you felt was amenable.
And I'm assuming you'll have them sign a lease just like you would a regular tenant or?
That's correct. Yeah, we'll have them sign a lease. We'll make sure the utilities are hooked up permanently. I was telling Ben earlier, coming into winter, the last thing that we want are broken water lines in January and February where we have to shut the park down and we displace 20 houses with no water and sewer. So we're going to be very strict with regards to making sure that their utilities are protected against winter weather, Mother Nature, and they've got skirting on their homes and they're geared up for that. Most of these folks work in colder weather environments, and it's not something that's uncommon to them.
Okay. Board have any other questions for the applicant? Okay. If not, I would consider a motion. Oh, I'm sorry, forgot. We'll open the public part of this agenda item. If anyone has any comments, please make sure that you sign the paper over here before you speak and try to limit yourself to 3 minutes if you can. Yep. Thank you. You'll tell us your name and your address, and then feel free to say what you have to say.
Hi, everybody. My name is Donald L. Bowers. I live at 510 Southwest Street, Lebanon, Indiana, 46052. The trailer park is right across the alley from me, behind my house. I was here in October because people were worried they were going to get thrown to the streets, that they were going to tear them all down, make them move out. Y'all remember that meeting, don't you? And you were telling these people from the trailer park that nobody's going to get thrown out. Don't have to worry about that. We spent $15,000 to have somebody walk around, oh, that's where we work for this and that one. Why don't you guys help these people out and put some vinyl siding on them like the other ones that are over there that are older than the ones that are back there behind my house that have been decommissioned? It's not that the people got out. You guys threw them out. And you threw them out. That last meeting was a bunch of lies, Should be telling people they don't have to worry about their homes. There's people out here that don't make the money that you guys do. And they're struggling, trying to raise up kids. They finally got them a piece of the pie. They got them a little trailer, offer them a little bit of help with want it cleaned up, that's fine. But I don't see that throwing people out to the wolves like that. You know, it ain't right. That's not what this county's supposed to be about. You know, I can see there's special interests and all that in it. Lily's got plenty of property to put in some RVs out there. Or if you're going to do it right, why don't you have these companies stick nice trailers in there instead of on the run RVs? You know, I don't want KOA campground behind me. You know, unless I get a pet Yogi Bear every day. But that's what that's what we're talking about. I'm not talking about just this and that. No, if it's not zoned for RV and if it's not really zoned for the trailer park, then why does it exist? I don't care if you guys bulldoze it. After what I experienced last time in here, now I see what went on with this crap. I don't want to see RVs behind my house. I don't even want to see apartment building. I don't even want to see it anymore. Strange people come off the roads. I know people that work those kind of jobs. They put roofs on. They put up half of these buildings out here. That's what the hotels are for. Companies put them up in the hotel. They don't need RV park. That make no sense. That's taking money out of the pockets of these people on the hotels, whatever. So, I'm totally against putting RVs back there, and you stop just throwing people randomly out there because you want another space to stick a freaking RV trailer coming in. It's not right. It's not what things are supposed to be about. So, anyway, you made some people homeless, and that ain't right. So that's what I got to say about it. Please make notes of that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any other public comment? All right, seeing none, we will close the public portion of this agenda item and move to any board discussion or questions before entertaining a motion.
I do have one for Ben. Is there anything statutorily that would prohibit short-term leasing? Say, one of the things mentioned, the weekend, week, whatever those are. Is there anything statutorily that would prohibit?
No, there wouldn't be necessarily. If there's a discussion about short-term rentals, we do have a registration requirement, but there's no limitation on it necessarily. I don't think that that's what they're intending for this, is to, have somebody come in for the weekend and roast s'mores and sing songs together. So I don't think that's what they're expecting necessarily, nor do they want to have to manage that.
Right.
But I mean, certainly it would be within the BZA's right to consider, a minimum 1 month, 2 month lease or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, if we could have the applicant come back up,
Yeah.
address that question.
We've got enough headaches in that community. We don't want people coming in on the weekend and leaving. So we will do 1-year leases with everybody. If somebody's not interested in signing a 1-year lease, we're not interested in having them. I mean, we're getting enough calls. We don't have that many available lots that if somebody doesn't want to do a 1-year lease, we're not gonna engage with them. They're gonna have to find someplace else to live. That's just all there is to it.
1 year minimum. Board would wanted to consider that as a condition.
And one more follow-up for Ben. From a definition standpoint, is there a defining difference RV to mobile home?
It's not a significant difference. I think the biggest difference is on the campground RV park. It considers those short-term stays that we're attempting to avoid with this discussion now. I think that's the biggest difference between the two. The actual unit itself is not significantly different. It's more that a campground RV park typically anticipates short-term stays.
Okay. We'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the variance of use request to permit a campground RV park use within R6 zoning district with the 2 conditions. The approval of the variance of use is limited to those campground RV park uses proposed, and that the approval for the proposed RV park use expires in 3 years from the date of the board approval.
Second? Motion and a second. Kelly, if you'll take a roll call vote?
No.
Chad Geiger,
Yes.
Ron Edwards,
Yes.
Lori Gross.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 3-1. Thank you. Next up on the agenda is docket 2452, GRD Properties LLC, requesting 5 development standards variances for the expansion of Donaldson's Chocolate. Located at 600 South State Road 39, the property is zoned GB or General Business and in the Thoroughfare Overlay District. Ben?
Right, let me get a couple things pulled up here, and then we'll go into some details on what they're hoping to do out here. There. So there are 2 components to this project that have resulted in a handful of variances being necessary. So first, to start all with, I think many people locally understand where Donaldson's Chocolates is located. This is the property here, just south of the interstate on State Road 39, directly across from the new Fieldhouse development. So you've got the existing Donaldson's Chocolate facility that's essentially a repurposed old farmhouse. And then they've got a decent amount of property that surrounds that's underutilized. So we've actually been working with the Donaldson family for quite a while now, probably a year or 2, right, Bob? To try to figure out what makes the most sense in terms of better utilizing this site. And what the result was the idea of splitting this, platting this as 2 different lots, and then marketing the second lot to an additional retail user that would likely support the traffic that's coming and going from the field house across the street. At the time we started that discussion, it was in the Planned Business Commercial Zoning District that didn't have a minimum lot size requirement. In our new zoning ordinance, the General Business Zoning District, where this property is now, does have a minimum lot size requirement of 40,000 square feet. So as we were discussing this, I let them know that there's going to be a time period where that's going to change. You can either come in and plat it now, or at some point you may have to come in for a variance to be able to accommodate what we've been talking about for the last period of time. And from a timing perspective, it didn't make sense for them to try to get in January. So they're coming back for the variance related to the lot size now. And then to walk through specifically, in addition to creating those 2 lots, there also is an addition proposed to the Donaldson's Chocolate facility that you see represented to the back of the existing house. They would be adding on, not quite doubling the square footage, or approximately doubling the square footage. And then also they want to rework the site to create additional parking along the north side of the building, essentially exiting out onto that existing drive between them and the Flying J. One of the big things we talked about with them right now, the pavement area extends all the way to the right-of-way line, so there really is no landscape area in front of that building. In fact, you can even see here on that south parking area, the parking actually extends into the right-of-way of State Road 39. So one of the big things we talked about then was to reestablish a buffer area or planting area out in front of the building, and then also making sure that there was a planting area along this north side so we can get some landscape improvements associated with the project. So as we were reviewing this proposal with them, a couple of things came up that required variances. The first is that minimum lot size. So we have one lot that is a little over 30,000 square feet, and that's the south lot. And then the north lot is actually about 25 square feet less than 40,000 square feet. It's 39,975 square feet is what this north lot is. So we do have 2 lots that are both smaller than that 40,000 square feet requirement. So there is a variance request related to that. The second one is actually something that changed in our new UDO also. We used to have minimum lot size or minimum parking space requirements. And one of the things we wanted to do in our new UDO is try to eliminate overparking, or in terms of number of parking spaces. So, we've got a number of commercial users that have enough parking spaces for the worst day in terms of number of people there. And so most of the year, those parking spaces are not used. And so what we wanted to do in our new ordinance is actually create maximum parking standards, so that we were being more direct and diligent about reviewing whether they actually need that many parking spaces they're proposing. And so in this case, as we reviewed this with the owners, they have a certain number of employees that work there. It's a little bit more employee intensive than some of your retail users of this size might be. And then also in terms of their traffic, they wanted to make sure that there were enough parking spaces on their busiest days, which happen more frequently than, say, just Black Friday, or at least what used to be Black Friday. So they actually are requesting a variance to allow more parking spaces than what our UDO permits in terms of the maximum. So right now, they're proposing 19 spaces, and 10 spaces what's permitted based on that building size, based on our new standard of 2.75 spaces per 1,000 square feet is the maximum. So they are requesting a variance to allow more parking spaces than what we permit for a commercial use of this size. The third is based on the loading area screening requirements. So what you can kind of see here, it's a little bit tough to tell. Right here, and where it's a little bit darker shading, they actually have a loading space. There is actually a loading dock located right here that's on the back of the building, and they've provided a wall to screen that area. But then the ordinance would require that loading space to also be screened with a wall from the adjacent roadway. And in terms of actually allowing access in and out of this space and proper access and just, kind of freedom of movement for these vehicles, it's just really not appropriate to put that screening wall extended all the way out here. And so what they essentially will do, and I'll show you the landscape plan here in a second, is rather than extending that wall out to screen this space and really kind of limit the movement there, they've provided landscaping along this north side, essentially to provide some screening from where that loading space is. Again, the loading dock itself is screened with a wall. It's just the space where any sort of delivery vehicle would be parked. And so that's the third variance request. The fourth one is the thoroughfare overlay landscape buffer. And because this is State Road 39, it is in the thoroughfare overlay district, which requires a 20-foot buffer in the front of the building. 20 feet would have extended all the way into this drive and not allowed access around the building at all. So we worked out with them is let's get the drive aisle one way down to the minimum width in terms of the drive aisle width, so that we're providing a landscape buffer along the north side that's sufficient enough to provide some of that landscape screening, but still allowing them to have access around the building, which is important, obviously, for both employee and customer traffic, and also for fire access for the city as well. And so that's what they've done here. And actually, in addition to that, there is, if you recall, there is a third entrance that's about right here at the northern end of the property, and they are closing that. So we're actually, in addition to providing some landscape buffer along the frontage here, they've actually closed an additional drive, just again for better access, and then also gives us more planting area along the east side of this property. So that's the fourth request then, is to reduce the landscape buffer area from 20 feet down to about 10 feet along that frontage. And the final one is the thoroughfare overlay architectural standards. If you'll recall, that house out there, old farmhouse, it's got horizontal lap siding. Thoroughfare overlay would require elevations to have 50% brick. So that new addition would be required to have 50% brick, which doesn't really fit with the existing architectural of the home. And so what they'd like to do is just continue that existing architectural style on that new addition and match that with horizontal lap siding. So they have requested a variance from that 50% masonry requirement so they can continue the existing architectural style. And just so I can kind of give you an idea what the landscaping plan looks like. See, here we go. And this is all new landscaping you see here. Let me zoom in so you can see a little bit better.
Color picture on page 1.
On page 1, you said?
Yeah, it's real pretty.
Of the landscape plan?
Well, it's just a 3D rendering.
Oh, towards the end, yeah.
Apparently I'm not on page 1.
Now I'm on totally the wrong page.
Now I've done it.
Oh, I just saw it.
There it is.
I'm about to zoom
It's
back
close
up.
to page 1. It's page not 1.
So this gives you a little bit of a rendering of what that landscaping, so they do have landscape plantings that run all along the frontage here. There is overhead electric in that area, so they have not provided the trees, but they have provided trees and shrubs along that northern property line. So this gives you a little bit of an idea. None of this landscaping exists today. This is all new landscape that's being proposed, both around the building and along the parking lot perimeter, to accommodate some of those buffer planting requirements and parking lot perimeter landscaping requirements. This gives you a little bit of an idea. You can kind of see here, this about the back half right there would represent the new expansion of the building. So that gives you a little bit of an idea. And like I said, there are those 5 variance requests that I went through. I will not go through the findings of fact for all 5, but I'll just reference them in my staff report for the record. And then staff has recommended approval of all 5 of those variance requests with no conditions. And with that, then I'd be happy to answer any questions.
There's in the back, there's no entrance or exit in the back of that, is there?
I think it's really just staff and or delivery entrance exits. So the entrance that you see on the front is similar to what it is now. Although I think you're redoing the ramp, correct? Yeah, they're redoing the ADA ramp, but other than that, the entrance exit point for customers is the same.
Is it an existing curb cut? Has it been to NDOT or is it going to?
So the 2 on the plan are both currently existing. They're closing the 3rd one that's the farthest north.
So that won't require an NDOT approval, correct?
I'm not sure on the closing. There certainly wouldn't be any NDOT approvals related to the other 2 because they're not changing those.
Okay.
Any other questions for Ben? Okay, would the applicant like to come forward?
Good evening. So I'm Bob Donaldson. You need an address, I guess, for the properties company. I keep the building in the property in a properties company and then lease it to the shop. A lot of times that happens. So that whole property is in my properties company. And I do that out of my home office, 925 Bloor Lane in Zionsville. And but we've been looking at this for several years. I knew things were going to start to happen around this town, and particularly across the interstate from us. And so I wanted to try to get ahead of it on terms of zoning and then planning out how we would have 2 acres. It's more ground than I can see the shop having, at least in my lifetime. So an acre of ground basically for the shop, I was able to figure out almost doubling the size of the back of it. And we're getting pretty tight in there when it gets to the seasons. And we know that traffic is going to continue to just get much better here in this interchange. So I don't have a definite time plan on it, but I wanted to get ahead of it and then start to understand the cost. And so we've put quite a bit of money in the engineering, obviously, to try to figure out all this and figure out an architectural plan that would work for addition. And so the next step for me is just to get through here. And if everybody's okay with this, and we will start to look at budgeting for the civil engineering side of it, the site engineering and site development, and then construction ideas for that. So I've also had a long history in development and land development and construction. So I'll right. But anyway, that's what I have. If you have any questions for me, I'll be glad to answer.
How long has Donaldson's been?
58 years. Yeah,
Congrats.
1966. Yeah, so I was a little kid then, but we grew up making chocolates around. When I was in high school, I always was out there early in the morning or late at night and got myself through college. So, but no, it's a long-term business, and it's only been in my mom and dad's ownership, and then mine after my father passed in at 90, and he worked up till 4 weeks before he died. So he had a stroke. So, but he loved the business, and he asked me that he wanted to see it go on. And Kathy, my wife, so we're thinking about the future.
Any questions for the applicant?
have I think a picture's worth 1,000 words, and if you continue with what the picture looked like, it's very, very becoming to the community.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I'd be very excited to get this up and running, looking like this. And it also just gives us a lot more production capacity. You realize we got 18 or 19 people out there, if you don't know that. And it's tight this time of year. Probably have about 8 or 9 full-time, and then the rest, we have different shifts, different part-time, people coming and going. People worked with us for years, and then we hire up for seasonal people as well. So it would be nice for us and the employees to have some space, but it would also be a consumer advantage for us. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing this at some point. I just don't have a time frame. We're watching everything start to build up, and when we feel it's ready, then we'll make the move.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to open up the public comment section of this agenda item. Any public comment? Seeing none, we will close the public comment section, and I will entertain a motion.
To approve docket 24-52 as written.
Second.
Motion and a second. Kelly, can you take a roll call vote, please?
Yes.
Chad Kiger.
Yes.
Ron Edwards.
Yes.
Lori Gross.
Yes.
Unanimous. Congratulations. We need more chocolate. Okay, that concludes the agenda items for this evening. Does anybody have anything before we think about adjourning? Okay, our next regular Board of Zoning Appeals meeting is scheduled for Monday, December 2nd in this room at 7 p.m. And can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Meeting closed.